labor market, and you have set up your own computer, so expect some fancy moving graphs here. It will be very interesting. Then we'll have a presentation by Anna Pelleman, welcome for the future of banking and growth in Europe. And you also talk a bit about the equality of the students. Great to have you here. And then Roger Westman will talk about what is really happening in Finland and what's going to happen perhaps after the Nokia takeout. So this is going to be highly interesting. So we are going to have 3 sessions, and then we're going to have our coffee break and leg stretches. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to you, Jan.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I should say something about myself. I'm a labor market artist. Not analyst. Because by my opinion, labor market analyzing is not only science, it's also art. It's the way of painting a picture made of many small pixels that shows you the reality. The labor market is very, very difficult to describe because it involves so many of all other things that happens in the society. Population, political decisions, anything. But let's start with the development of the population in Sweden. I will show you 100 years in just a few seconds. This is the population in Sweden in 1901. And it looks quite nice. It has been the same for decades, for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. And in many countries outside Europe, it looks still the same today. What you can see here is the text is in Swedish, but the figures are international. You can see men and women and the number of them for each year class. It's very beautiful. The only thing that is a little bit disturbing is that one, and that's the results of the immigration from Sweden to the United States and the starvation in 1868 or something like this. So it made very remarkable footsteps in this situation. Okay, so look now what has happened in 100 years. So, it's not more this beautiful tree, it's a bush of some kind. The problem is, I think, that the research of today in many areas is based upon the situation that looks like 1900. We are talking about drought in economy based upon a situation which were quite different from what we have today. The, so to say, original society with, the original society where the old people disappeared from the labor market, they died, and new, bigger generations came up and they took over their work, and they also generated the growth in economy and in population. I have seen very little research so far about the situation that looks like this. Nobody talks about it. This is from Sweden. The graph for Dalarna County is still worse. We are talking very, very little about the demography when we are talking about the future of our society. I don't know why. By some reason people are not, they don't have the knowledge maybe, or what, I don't really know. But OECD has put quite big attention to the program, to the problem in the program, the LEAD program. They have done a special study in a number of countries. The region where we are now is one of the regions, and the result of this study is a part of a coming report. This is the generational shift in the Swedish labor market, and I have some copies here. You may take one if you want to have. To describe the situation, I would like to quote one of my Polish colleagues, because he has a very good description in his report. He says like this: demographic changes are among the most important challenges facing societies, labor markets, and economies, especially in conjunction with other global processes such as climate and technological change. The demographic changes we see today are to a large extent the result of earlier processes whose social and economic implications are just starting to be felt. The trends we can observe relate to long-term features such as significant decline in the fertility rate and increased life expectancy. It is of increasing importance for governments to design and implement policies to reduce the negative effects of these demographic changes. He mentioned fertility. You know, in a society where you want to have a drafting population, you need a fertility rate of at least 2.1. Sweden has 1.9, the Czech Republic has 1.5 or below, even 1.4. This must be seen somewhere. What happens now is not only happening in Dalarna, in Sweden. We have many regions around the world, especially in Eastern Europe and in the northern parts of Central Europe, as for instance in Poland, Germany, the Netherlands, but also in Japan, Korea, and parts of China, who faces the same problem that we have. To make it obvious for you, I would like to give the picture of Dalarna, of this county, because the problems that we may face here are the same that will be all over the world, sooner or later, outside the big cities. So this is what happens in remote areas. And you know where Dalarna is, because we are here. We are large, but very sparsely populated regions. We have long distances. It makes it difficult for commuting, for instance. That's one reason, as I told already today, I don't trust statistics always, because by statistics means I should be commuting from Stockholm every day, which I don't do, I live here. But on the paper, I work on them. Okay, even if the population is concentrated to the center of the country, to Poland and Germany, but we have also very good possibilities for work in other parts of the region if you compare with similar sized counties around us. For instance, Örebro, Värmland, where they have one capital and they have not so much around. Industrial production has been and still is one of the largest industries that we have. And you remember half a year ago our Prime Minister said that the Swedish industry is dead. No, it is not. It is just changing. Production has shifted from simple manufacturing to specialized products, as for instance in Ludvika, transmission of power. They are world-leading company, ABB. And we have also the production of high-strength steel and paper. SSAB in Borlänge make special steel for cars and sell all over the world. The employment rate in Dalarna is higher than general average average in Sweden. We have had, during the last years, very low growth in employment. It's among the worst in Sweden. So the economy in that way is not increasing. Still, we had and have today the 5th lowest unemployment rate in Sweden, 7% of the labor force, around 8% in Sweden. Even youth unemployment is quite low, around 30, 40, something. And at the same time, as we have no growth in employment, we have the biggest demand for workforce last year. I haven't seen such in more than 20 years. So this is things that happen when we are in a very, very complicated situation. These are, the first one here is a map of Sweden. It's from the OECD report. And as you can see, we have 2 regions in Sweden, Norrbotten, Dalarna, where more than 39% of those who are working today will be retired in 2025. For the northern part of our county, in Mora, Orsa, Älvdalen, it's around 50%. I have talked about this now for 14 years. This will happen. I think that somebody has listened, but I'm not really sure. At least they have discussed these problems in Mora, Orsa, and Älvdalen for many years now, and I think they are quite well prepared. So, if we make a graph of this, we can see that the total population in Dalarna won't go down. It will remain and even increase a little. About 5,000 more will live in this county in 2025, mainly due to immigration. The population in working ages from 18 to 64 will go this way. There will be 15,000 less inhabitants in Dalarna in 2025 in working ages. And at the same time, we have a huge number of elderly people, 80 plus, who will be in need of health care and elderly care. So you can say very simple, 15,000 less has to take care of 5,000 more. And this is not the only problem. You may imagine when all these people are going out on the roads and they drive slowly on the highways. We should need special roads for reflection. But that's not our problem. So, how can we then see the problem already today? Yeah. The first question here is compared with the national graph, what does it like in Dalarna? And this is the same divided into every year class. And as you can see, 2011 are the blue one and 2025 the red one. This forecast is made by Statistics Sweden, and I think it's the best one that I've seen in 20 years. It follows so far exactly what they have forecasted. The problem today is that the biggest age groups that we have in the county are around 60 years old and older. In Stockholm, for instance, the biggest is those who are in the 40s.
Why do you think it is a problem? Because actually economists are saying one that drives income inequality is that higher ages are continuing to working for higher salaries. So they're not predicting, they're actually saying this is probably good because those keep on having human capital and using it on the labor market. It only becomes a problem if you see those people retiring and not being productive in the labor market.
From my point of view, when I'm talking about the labor market, it's a problem with retiring because we can't fill them. Because if you calculate, a great part of these are employed.
Mm-hmm.
And when they leave their workplace, the employer wants a copy of that person just 30 years younger, which means that they should be taken here. It's just a Wally. That's because the name of the county, Wally Dollar, and so on. The young people that we have, those who are born in the early 90s, they are still too young because the employers, what they want is work-life experience. I will come back to that. So, no, you're right, because the silver economy is very interesting. We have a huge part of the people who are quite wealthy, I hope, who are able to spend their money on the economy. So this is not a problem of economy, it's a problem of employment. If you compare all the counties in Sweden, they will look like this. The historical average for the last 100 years is somewhere here. The total level is around 35. Of those who are working now to be retired in 2025, and Norrland and Norrbotten in the north are those who are first to face this problem. This is the three small municipalities in the north of Dalarna, Mora, Orsa, Älvdalen, and as you can see, the inflow on the labor market of young people is this red one here. The outflow because of retirements is this blue one. Is it so that people are interested in and willing to work longer if they are paid? We have seen a significant increase of employment among older people in Sweden. We have never had such high share of those who are 55 plus working in Sweden as we have now. But at the same time, the average age of retirement has moved in Dalarna from 62.8 to 63.5. So people are not even working until the ordinary retirement age. Half of them have left the labor market already before. It's possible to find, of course, people working in old age, those who are 75, mainly in very not so physically demanding professions, teachers, for instance, but in many professions it is physically not possible to continue to work. This is a picture also of Sweden as a whole. And as you can see, in Sweden as a whole, those who are domestic born will decrease from 2012 until 2025 quite a lot. And the same picture of Dalarna is much more steep. On the other hand, those who are foreign born are still going to increase some way. And it's, in fact, if we didn't have foreign-born inhabitants in Dalarna, the result in 2025 would not be 15,000 less, it would be 35,000 less. So the immigration is an addition to our workforce with 20,000 people. The problem is the paradox, I used to say the paradox problem of matching on the labor market. Because this is based upon people who have visited the employment office sometime. And we can follow them. The job seeker skills tend to decrease. One reason is that when the unemployment goes down, as it has done in the county, 15 years ago there were 25,000 unemployed in this county, now they are just about 8,000. It's like when there is a sale on the shop, you have just odd sizes left. Now, I think it depends on that many of those who are recruited, they don't even appear at the employment office. They are kidnapped directly from the schools and from the university into the companies. The required skills are tending to increase by two reasons. The structural change in manufacturing industry is one reason. The other one is that many of those born in late 40s who are now leaving the labor market, they had a very low educational background. But they have done tasks at their work as to replace them. There is a need of an engineer today. So in fact, it's very easy to calculate the demand for workforce in Dalarna in the future. We just have to look at those who are working now. We know a lot about them, even the size of the shoes, if necessary, their background. And I made a forecast when we are talking about technical engineers, just to remain the level of the number of engineers in the county today. We need to recruit 1,000 engineers every 5 years in the coming years. If we look at the offer of engineers, it's quite low. We get a few from the universities, but at the employment office, it's zero. It's the same about medical doctors, nurses. Last year we had a demand of nurses, about 1,300 placements in Dalarna. We have zero to offer them. We had a demand of more than 40 midwives in Dalarna last year. There are 40 job seekers in whole Sweden. So this is the problem. It's a paradox problem. That we will find job seekers with skills that are not asked. And we will have companies, enterprises with an amount of skills that we don't have. And this will, same situation we will find then in many European countries. For instance, during the last 10 years, we have 80% increase of job seekers looking for a job with no need for professional education. Why? We have 29% decrease of job seekers looking for management jobs. We have 51% increase of demand in those jobs. We have 16% decrease of job seekers looking for jobs with either university degrees and 55% increase of demand. Yeah. Yeah.
So is this, when you say job seekers, you mean those who apply for jobs through the Analyst?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what's happened today is, of course, that a lot of people go directly from schools and from universities. The turnover is very, very high in Dalarna. My calculation is that we have about 40,000 vacancies in 1 year. And we have employment of 130,000 people. So a lot of people are changing all the time. On the other hand, more than 20,000 people registered as job seekers at the employment office go to work every year. And the inflow is lower, which means that our supply of people is increasing all the time. How can we meet this threats? One way is to go back to the situation 30 years ago. We have nearly the same situation in Sweden in 1989, 1990, 1991. And if we imagine this is a workplace where we have the level of production, those who are really doing something, and then we have administration and management. It has been possible to recruit people from universities, from schools, and from the employment office to all these levels for many years. From 1995, when we had the big crisis, until 2010. Today, or from 2011 and forward, these two are closed. So what we can offer today is mainly people who are looking for very simple jobs. Simple and simple, but anyway in the production. What the companies have to learn is what they have forgotten for many years. Is this one. Internal planning, internal education. And I think that many companies in Sweden and abroad have to relearn this. We have to teach them how to teach the teachers. So what are the threats and opportunities for us? Yeah, we have already seen in quite many years a shortage of key competencies in the companies. Nearly all of the enterprises in Dalarna say that they have to refuse orders, or that they have to work overtime because they can't find people in the production. And I think that we might have 10% better economical growth in the region if these companies didn't have this problem. We also have decreasing GDP, which means that hours worked are not enough to maintain welfare. And also this mismatch between vacancies and job seekers. What is also a problem today is the changes of skills in different professions. The jobs are not the same that they were 20 years ago, especially in the technical area. So what could we do? As I showed you, the transfer of internal knowledge inside the companies is very important. And I have a very good example of that. The municipality of Moga in the north of Sweden, they have started last year something they call Campus Moga. In 2 weeks, every autumn, they collect nearly half of all their staff just to help each other in teaching. 600 out of 1,600 employed participated last autumn in this, and those who are teaching are members of their own staff. The matching process is also a problem. We have for many years in all countries all over the world been talking about matching by professions. In a time where the content of the profession is changing, this is not enough. And when we get people from outside Europe, they may have done things that we don't have words for in our systems. So to be able to match by skills instead of professions is one solution, which we are now working with. Three-part cooperation between the Masaryk University in the Czech Republic, Ryokoko University in Kyoto, and the employment office in Dalarna, working to find the future skills demand for different professions. And also improving conditions for self-employment by simplifying regulations, by training, and especially for those who are newly arrived. They really need special training to be able to create new companies. So if you ask me, very short, to find a very few conditions for survival. Because somebody said that the population in the last inhabitant in Dalarna will die at the same time as the Japanese, which will happen in 300 years. But to avoid this and to be able to survive and have a well-functioning society and labor market, what do we need? Now I'm going to talk as a politician. We need openness. We need open borders and we need open minds to accept new companies, self-employed, maybe in areas that we are not used to. We haven't seen this in Sweden or in Dalarna before. Because people coming from other countries outside Europe maybe want to create their own business. But I have always asked, why is the self-employment rate among people born in Somalia 10 times higher in the United States compared to Sweden? And consensus and cooperation. We have to realize that this is the fact. We can't build new research, we can't build new expectations if the workforce and the population isn't there. And we have to cooperate. Cooperation between people, between organizations, and between companies to solve the problem. I mentioned, yeah? When I was talking at the university in Kyoto in Japan in December last year, and I took an example of a cluster which is functioning extremely well here. Something that they don't know about Japan. So you could say Japan has something to learn from Dalarna. It's the triple helix, which is a cluster including 2 universities, 700 companies in the steel sector, and nearly all municipalities in the region of Bergslagen. So working together, realizing the problem, have information about what's going to happen in the coming years, and to be open for changes. I think these are the conditions for survival.
Thank you so much for that fascinating story, Jan. I think we should go on with the next 2 presentations, and perhaps we can have a chance to discuss this during the break. Also,
Okay,
you have some
if you want
reports.
to take a report.
So OECD reports on the changing labor market. Let's give a full hands to